Hey, mighty men, I want to encourage you to not live a substandard life. Okay? What is a substandard life? It's a life that violates the standard that God is giving you um, for which you're called to be and become. When we live a substandard life, we have yielded our strength to something or someone that God did not design us to yield to. And the reason why it's important for you not to yield that strength is because without the conviction associated with the strength, see, God gives you the strength for his purposes. He gives you the power for his purposes. And when you allow yourself to yield that strength and start to live a substandard life, okay? A substandard, which means it's not according to the standard of what God called you to be. What is the standard? The standard is the calling for what God has called you to be. If you don't know what that standard is, I encourage you to allow yourself to get cooked in the presence of God. Get cooked long enough to learn who you are in the things of God. Before you take on a relationship, a marriage, you have to learn to be the Father's presence so you can become what you are called and designed to be. It's enough that this generation is living a substandard life, and I believe the enemy's tactics have allowed us to submit ourselves in a way that we were not called to be submitted. Okay, the Bible even tells us to not give ourselves. In Proverbs 31, we always talk about the Proverbs 31 woman, but you have to understand in that same Proverbs, King Lemuel's mother was teaching him, do not give your strength to women, nor the thing that destroy kings. What she's saying is, God is giving you a standard, and with that standard, there's a conviction associated with who you're called to be. And the temptation is for you to submit yourself to something because of what you feel you're not, versus growing into who you're called to be. As a man, you are not called to live for someone. You're called to live through someone. You're called to live in the things of God. What I mean by not living for someone, if you start to live for your marriage and live for your wife and live for your children, you are going to live a substandard life. Now, of course, you take care of your children. You take care of your wife. The Bible says if you can't take care of your own home, you're worse than an infidel and you denied the faith. So when I'm talking about yielding yourself to that, what I'm not saying is that you don't take care of your family. You take care of your family in the cusp of what God is giving you by the grace that he is associated with your calling. There's grace associated with your calling. But as you're called to take care of your family, as you're called to become who you're called to be as a single person, you don't want to yield yourself to someone or to a thing or to a person premature of you understanding what is the calling for what God has put inside of you. That calling, that clarity, that conviction controls everything. Listen, man, it controls everything. In today's society, we're losing it. We're losing it because we are in this feministic society, okay, where there is not enough role models. It's not saying there aren't any. There's not enough role models. There are not enough men that's stood up. There's not enough fathers. There's not enough old men teaching the young men. And the problem with that is it's causing a decline in healthy masculinity, spiritual strength and understanding, wisdom, knowledge. And what's happening is we're yielding prematurely to women. We're yielding prematurely because we're looking for mothers versus wives. We're looking for security. We're looking for comfort versus understanding of who you're called to be. And so I want to call you up and out of your pity, call you up and out of what you are declining within yourself about and causing yourself to yield your strength to something that will never fulfill you. Okay? Taking care of a thing won't fulfill you, but being led through a conviction because of a calling, which means God is giving you something. Paul told Elijah, do not cast off the prophecies that was given to you, which means go back to what God said about you. Go back to what God is talking, he's been giving you. What is he saying? Go back to your first love and go back to doing the very thing from the beginning that he started you in. Sometime God has to reset and revise what he gave you, so that you come back to the clear understanding of why you are doing what you're doing and who you're becoming from the get-go. So I want to encourage you today to take your stand, take your place, and not allow yourself to yield your strength to something or someone unhealthily, unknowingly. It doesn't mean that you're coming into some control. You need to be some type of control in this manhood control humanistic thing. No. I'm talking about you need to allow yourself to get the Father's love. Come into the Father's, casting your cares on him, and knowing that you're loved by your Father, and you can become the father that God called you to be. You become the man that God called you to be. And when you choose a spouse, and or if you're married, you can now lead your family without being controlled by what you feel you need to compete with. You feel you need to do to make someone happy versus making God happy. Because when you are allowing yourself to do what God called you to do, you're living through the convictions and the confines of joy and peace, which makes everything around you have the greater presence